All right. Oh yeah, that's what you're looking for right there. That really good click, and that is a sign of a good fitting Kydex sheath. Today, that's what I'm gonna go over and try to really in depth show you guys how I get a super good fit on my Kydex sheaths. Now I just finished that one up, and I've got 3 of these bird and trout knives to get sheaths done for today. So if you guys want a more in-depth, step-by-step how to build a Kydex sheaths from start to finish, I'll put the link up here for that one. That's not what I'm going to be talking about today. Today is all about fitment. So as you can see here, this one I've already pressed. This one's already ready to pop out, get my holes drilled, which I'll probably show that a little bit, and start shaping this. Now, the first step to getting the right fitment, and I've messed with this a lot. I've made a ridiculous amount of Kydex sheaths, is taping up your blade, okay? So this is a knife that is fully hand sanded, and I have 2 layers of the blue, this blue right here, painter's tape on it, okay? And it matters what tape, because some's thin and some's thick, and I found that stuff, it's a little more expensive, but it works the best. 2 layers is basically what I do on every single knife, whether it's a big one or a small one, it doesn't really matter. That seems to give me the best results. Now, the first step of doing this, obviously, is pressing your Kydex, and I think that's the most important step that people don't seem to kind of pay enough attention to. Getting your Kydex to the proper temperature is huge, and I own a couple knives that I bought from other makers, and I get it, and the Kydex always sucks, unfortunately. I hate getting a sheath that the knife just pulls out of, or it falls out of it, and it's just something that I think if you're building knives and you decide to go the Kydex route, you need to make a good Kydex sheath. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Come on with me. I hope this helps a little bit. And we're gonna go shape this a little bit and kind of show you how it works. All right, so the first step, we've got it out of the press here, you can see. And that kind of gives you a pretty good idea on what kind of definition you're going for. You can even see the bevel where it starts and stops. And this one here is probably even a little bit light. Like what I notice is when I go to peel this apart at the seam, again, this is a taco style sheath. If you're doing a 2-piece pressed together sheath, same principle, you need it to be really tight, but you can see it's really hard to get it undone. See that, how that seam is not super easy to pop apart, and but we got it out. Now, a lot of times when I do these, I even have to take a knife and pop this apart, okay, all the way down. That's how hot my Kydex is when I press it. Again, I cover that a little bit better in that other video. So if you're new to making Kydex, go watch that video first, then come back and watch this one. So that's what we have right there, our Kydex sheath. Now I'm gonna put my eyelets in and get this kind of cut to shape on the portable bandsaw, which you guys all know how to do that. And I'll come back in and show you the next step, which is getting that fitment right. So just for kind of video purposes, I'll show you what I'm going to be cutting. Now you see I've got my eyelet holes drilled there, and this is all space for a tech lock. And then I'm going to come in and kind of draw here where I'm going to be cutting this on the bandsaw. And you're just doing super rough cuts to get it to shape, kind of like that, okay? So that's what I'm going to cut out on the bandsaw before moving over to the grinder. And that'll get me close and save a little bit of time on grinding all this off with the grinder. Okay, so now that you've got it like this, it's time to start shaping this thing down and get it looking a little bit better. Now, when I'm shaping these on the grinder, you can kind of see with this one how open it is on the top, okay? You have to remove enough material to where that knife will slide down in there without scratching the blade up, but you have to leave enough material to where you've got tension, okay? So, for example, this is one that's not finished yet. On this bird and trout knife, all your tension is gonna come from these spots right here, okay? Like right at the corners of this. Now, this is the hard part about making a video like this, is because however you make your knife is gonna kind of determine how your Kydex fits it. Now, these are a little bit trickier. There's less surface area, I guess is what you would say, to create that good friction kind of in and out, good click with these bird and trouts, compared to like this one, the big Trekker T XL. You can see you've got a lot of friction there, and you can see here, it goes in and it kind of bites around that part as it goes in, okay? And now the thing about doing these, and you'll probably see it a lot, even if you've done it or if you have a knife with Kydex, is this part of the knife right here where it bites in will slowly over time get worn a little bit, especially if it's on like a softer wood or even some micarta. You'll see where that spot gets discolored from going in and out of the sheath a lot. And that's another part of this where if it's doing that, it's probably got a little too much pressure on that point. And you can kind of finagle that a little bit with some hand sanding. So for right now, we're gonna shape this down on the grinder, really rough shape this to size, kind of how I like it. And you can see I put a 36 grip belt on there, which you can use an 80 as well. But I'm just trying to hog this material off and get this shaped a little bit more where we want it. And you also saw with that other one, I always add a little thumb ramp too, which isn't part of this video. But so I'm gonna jump over on the grinder and shape this thing real quick. Okay, so this is actually a lot harder to explain than what I thought, but you can see here where it's at, and this is right off the grinder, okay? You can see that little, it's open right there, okay? Just barely though, you don't wanna go in too far. The whole thing about doing this is you can never add material back on. You've got to kind of go slow and don't remove too much material. Now you can see I was using that top wheel on my grinder to kind of shape that curve in right here. And now, looking at it right now, I've pretty much got enough material removed, but I'm gonna use just one of these little Dremel tools to go in and just clean this up a little bit. All right, so At this point, I add my thumb ramp in, and you don't have to do this. It's just something I do with mine. And I just kind of heat it up with a lighter a little bit there. Kind of fold it over by hand. I kind of left a little too much material on this, but we're gonna go with it, and I'll shape it down a little bit afterwards. But this way, you don't want it coming in right here is the problem that I'm having here. Pushed in a little bit, but that's okay. I'll still be able to show you guys the process here. So right now, you can see this is the most important part, okay? Where these flaps come over, I think. Here, I need to get you guys to see this better. Okay. So you can see where the tension point will be on this, okay? Right here and right here, okay? And I left enough material inside. Man, this is hard to show you guys. To where that's still gonna grab on, and as of right now, it's gonna grab a little too tight, I think, just from my experience doing these. So what I'm gonna do is peel off one layer of tape on this knife. And I want to apologize for this video, because this video isn't meant to be super exciting or fun. It's just meant to really show you guys how to get a good fitment on these sheaths, okay? And it's not super exciting, but hopefully you'll learn something. And if you do learn something from this, I get people that ask all the time, like, man, you know, what can I do? You know, I'm so happy I learned this. You can always buy a knife from me. That's what you do. Shoot me a message and order a knife. So, okay, we've got one layer of tape now on both sides. And I always leave one layer on during this step, just so if it is too tight, which I think it is right now, you're not gonna scratch your blade finish up. So you can see here, it's a little bit tight, and what's gonna happen is you can see right here where it's peeling that tape off from that tension point. See that right there? And that's not bad as long as it's not really digging into your handle material. Like I said, this is a very finicky, very precise thing, and I think that's why it frustrates a lot of people. They end up removing too much material, then their fitment sucks, is because you just have to do these a lot and really understand what has to be taken off to make these fit good. Because right now, obviously, there's no rattle or anything in there, but I've got to just real carefully trim a little bit of material off that side, okay? So what I'm gonna do is take my little shop knife here, and I'm gonna step back a little bit, and I'm just kind of gonna shave off, just with the tip of that knife, a little bit from that side, and this side I can see where it took a little bit of tape. And so I'm just kind of making that a little smoother. And if you guys, I mean, it's so hard for me to show what I'm doing in this. I'm just trying to explain it as good as I can. If you guys have any questions throughout this process, just drop them below and I will absolutely answer them. Let me blow this out real quick. And right now, it's probably pretty close to where I want it, okay? So it's still there, yeah. It's so when, man, this is hard to explain. I'm sorry, you guys. When you're fitting this up like that, you can see it's still a little bit tight, and you want it to be a little bit tight because A, you've still got a layer of tape on there, and B, you have to finish sand what you've already done. So you're gonna remove a little bit more material than what you already have. So now that it's where it's at, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna adjust how this thumb ramp is because it looks all goofy. And then I'm going to bring you over here on this side and show you how I finish these off. Okay, so what I like to do is take some 120 grit sandpaper, and you know how I finished this section of the Kydex, you could take that up higher on the grinder if you wanted to. I'm not really showing that process right now. I like to take this all up to 220, and then I'll lightly buff it on the buffer to kind of smooth that out, make it look really good. But what I'm talking about right now is getting right where your blade fits in there, the perfect fit. And what I like to do is smooth it out with this 120, just like this. And you can kind of see, you can't see what I'm doing, but when you're working on this, you're going to be able to see kind of you're removing all those really harsh grinder scratches, and you're removing those kind of cuts that you put in by shaving it down with a knife or a razor or whatever. And then I fold it over and I do some inside passes. Now, you want to smooth over that friction point on the front of your scale where that goes in and out, because that's what's going to damage your scale over time. If you smooth that out a lot, take it up to 220 or 400, it'll still be a really good tight fit, but it's not going to damage your scale. And that's key. That's key to this whole thing. I think there's a lot of steps that are key to this, but you know, keeping a good fit and not having that knife look like crap after 6 months of use because it's gone in and out of the sheath a bunch of times, I think is very important. So what I like to do is, as you're seeing, I'm just taking some sandpaper and sanding those portions down a little bit. Not a lot, just enough to smooth them out. And that's why I left it a little bit tight on my previous step, to be able to remove just a little bit of material. So I'm going to take this up to 400 on the inside, okay, 400 grit, and then I'll check back in. All right, so we took that up to 400. We did a light buff on everything over there on the buffing wheel, just to kind of clean everything up. And now we are taking that one layer of tape off. Man, I really like this bird and trout design. I'm sure if you guys follow over on Instagram, you've probably seen your fair share of these, but these are really kind of neat. These are S3V steel, all freehand ground, of course. And I kind of left that rough kind of heat treat finish on the flats just to give a little contrast to it. Super cool set of scales. So we took all the tape off, and then what I like to do, oh, sorry, I keep getting too close here, is I wipe the sheath down with a little bit of like 3-in-1 oil or whatever, and then blow it out really good with compressed air. Make sure you get all your Kydex dust out of there. And then let's see how our fitment is here. Nice. Man, I nailed that one, guys. So as you can see here, I want to just give a really good close-up of what that section looks like, because obviously, as you know now, that is key. Gosh, and it just doesn't show up very good, guys. Sorry about that. That's key to the whole thing, is getting this spot perfect, okay? Nice. So I guess you had to have learned something from this video. I don't know. I've been kind of putting this off because I knew that this is one of those things that without you being here in my shop and me being able to really show how intricate this process is, it's very hard to create a video on this process, and that's why I haven't done it. It's amazing how many videos I've put out about knife making. Kydex is the thing that I get asked about more than anything. So there you go, Kydex sheath bird and trout. I've got 2 more now to get done today. And this one is gonna get a tech lock clip like this knife right here. And I get asked a lot about these too. I set all my sheaths up to take a tech lock just because the spacing's good, and then you could change it and put whatever type of belt clip on it you wanted or whatever. I'll put a link below to these things, and I'll also put a link below to all the different stuff I use as far as the Kydex and the eyelets. I'll put all that stuff below too, just to give you guys an idea of what I'm using. I order pretty much everything from knifekits.com. They have everything for sheath making, all kinds of different patterns of Kydex, stuff like that. And they've been super cool to deal with. So that being said, sorry about this video, guys. I think it wasn't very good, but I hope you learned something from it. And drop a comment below if you have any questions. If I messed up on any of this, I'll answer them as fast as I can, or shoot me a message over on Instagram. Like always, guys, thanks for watching. And if you learned anything, subscribe to the channel.